I think writing music for film is one of the most rewarding experiences a composer can have. And if you're already someone who knows how to produce music, there are a few ideas we can talk about today that will go you from just music producer to film composer. A lot of writing music for film comes down to the thought processes and technology rather than writing film music. So if you're already a producer who knows how to make music, there's a few skills we could talk about today, and that's really what this talk is about. The special skills and ideas needed to write music for the movies. I've worked as an assistant in Hollywood with a bunch of composers, such as Trevor Morris, and I've also done my own composing thing, and I'm really just trying to make the best place on the internet right now for composers. So if you like this video, give it a subscribe, or join our Discord, where there's over 500 members right now, doing weekly composition challenges, supporting each other, and just being a great community. Anyway, let's dive in. So the very first thing about film music is the aesthetic. There is no one film sound. You may hear the phrase, oh, that sounds cinematic. That sounds like film music. Genres span from everything and anything. Now, traditionally, Hollywood has a classic sound. The Golden Age era, and before that, was very much influenced by, one, jazz, which was the music at the time, and two, the expressive romantic tonality, which we were just coming out of the Romantic era. We had a lot of romantic composers actually start out writing music for film in the early 1800s. So we kind of go back to that idea of where film comes from, but we also have this idea that film music itself is its own world of sounds and instruments. Some composers, many composers, including myself, make their own instruments. Some build their own theory systems and these harmonic structures specifically for a film, and then they never touch it again. Every film has its own sound world. Now, I want to talk about this book real quick, Hollywood Harmony by Frank Lehman. He says there are three things that make film music film music. One, and most importantly, number one, subordination. This means the music is second to the picture. So, as a composer, one thing you got to be aware of is, yeah, you might write this really cool thing that's a 4/4 build-up and goes to 4/4, do 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 do, and then it hits F again. You're staying in 4/4. Pictures aren't edited like that unless it's a music video. You might constantly be switching between 7/8, 3/4, 6/8, 4/4, every other bar, every 2 bars. There's no regularity in the rhythm. We follow the picture. Our harmonic arcs, our rhythms, our densities, everything has to relate to the larger film that we are scoring. And we might have a really cool melody that is structured in 4 or 8 bars, but as composers, we have to learn how to extend it. Okay, for this scene, we need to extend it an extra 3.5 seconds. Oh, for that thing, we might need to take a 2-second clip from that melody and make people understand, okay, what melody are we linking it back to? This kind of comes to the second idea that Frank outlines, is the immediacy in recognition of a film score. Harmony and timbre are our two most powerful elements in scoring. They are quickly recognized pieces of sound that we can instantly go, oh, that's a steel drum. Oh, that's a female singer. Oh, that's an electric guitar. They provide so much storytelling instantly without having to have a longer form melodic development over time. So let's say a villain walks on the screen and we hear timpani drums. We know they might be powerful. Or we hear an electric guitar. We know they might be powerful. We might hear a beautiful oboe solo. Okay, they might be a little more vulnerable. We don't know, but depends on the context of the film and the idea of what we are doing musically. A major chord sounds happy. A minor chord sounds sad. When we go from a chromatic median, which is a major third root progression, in most cases, like from a C major to an E major, it might sound sci-fi or otherworldly. These moments of color are the immediacy I'm talking about in this context. Traditional composition and songwriting is a much more a larger cycle of tension and release. We go through a progression of tension from tonic to subdominant to dominant to release, and we build. Whereas film music kind of ebbs and flows depending on what's happening in the picture. We might go from a series of just a bunch of consonant-sounding major chords straight into a double diminished chord. There is a logic to how we go from A to B, but film is a lot more, how can we express this color in this moment versus what is the long-form progression. So melody, theme, and leitmotif are important in film music. Look at Lord of the Rings, for example, one of the greatest film scores of all time, I think. But in most scenarios, we're not working with long-form thematic material. We are taking long-form thematic material and figuring out how to make it recognizable in half a second versus over 3 minutes. Now, if you're into that sort of thing, and you get really good at it, I highly recommend looking into sonic branding, which I have a resource guide on my Composer Resource Library, link in my description. But sonic branding is basically the idea of scoring brands, not just film. And it's a wonderful world. I highly recommend getting into it. And I want to make more content about that. So if you have questions, let me know. Anyway, going back to this, the immediacy of our sound can also take place in the genre. If you took the same chords and the same melody and you played it on an orchestra, it'll tell a different story than if you made a dubstep arrangement. So film scoring is very color-based, and color comes from our timbre and our harmony. The last thing Frank says is film music is referential. So film music being referential, it references itself like a leitmotif would. You hear Luke appears on screen and you hear the Force theme. But it also references the culture at large and larger musical trends in music and other little jokes sometimes. I recently made a video on the Daniels film Swiss Army Man, and that is littered with musical jokes, and it's pretty explicit because, well, the lyrics are there. But it could be a lot more subtle. The idea, though, is like, hey, why are we listening to A Ride of the Valkyries when a bunch of school kids are running through a park? Okay, well, we could be referencing the opera, we could be referencing Birth of a Nation, or a million other films that have done that. And when you do that thing, it puts it in context. That's enough on how film music works. Let's talk about how we might go about scoring a film. A director might send you reference tracks to help you find the aesthetic for what you're working on. These can help, these can hurt, but it's your choice to learn how you like to work with them. Some composers love them. Some composers hate them. The problem with reference tracks is reference tracks give the director, the producer, and the filmmaking team something to fall in love with that you have to live up to. And that can be good. You can be an amazing composer, but sometimes there's something in the reference and the way it works with the picture and that they just get this demo love and they can't get out of it. Personally, for me, I prefer reference playlists and mood boards. I think it gives us a much more of a broad starting point, and it has the bonus that we aren't putting it against the picture already, so they aren't seeing it to the picture and falling in love with how things work and how things are lining up. A good composer can kind of figure out, okay, they like this because of this. But when you're working with like student filmmakers and stuff, this communication, it breaks down. And the best way to go about it is to go step away and do reference playlists, because you might not understand what you're talking about, they might not understand what you're talking about. You try to meet in the middle, but you're actually going different directions. On the technical side of things, every film you work with is going to be in a time code or a frame rate. Movies are essentially a series of still images, and depending on how fast that image moves in front of your eye, that is your frame rate. So some movies work at 24 frames per second, which means you see 24 individual still frames per second. Some are 30, some are 29.97. We also have this idea of drop frame versus non-drop frame. In a drop frame film, every minute, except for minutes that are multiples of 10, like 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, we drop a frame. This just helps everything stay in sync. Don't worry about it too much. Your film will tell you if it's in drop sync, if it's a drop frame or not. Typically, on professional productions, we'll use a semicolon instead of a colon in the time code itself to denote that. But you can find if you open your video and you go into Inspector or you pull into your DAW, it should tell you what your frame rate is. So the best thing you can do, though, is get a copy of the film starting at hour 1, right? Not hour zero, because sometimes music needs to come in before the very first frame of the picture if there are logos or something. And when you have this time code built in to the video, your DAW, and the video editing software can all sync up to the same exact time code. Now, this will save you a lot of time when you go to export your audio, because your music, you're writing to minute 2, second 34, frame 12. Well, when you export your audio, it'll automatically snap into place in the video editing software or the dub stage in Pro Tools, and everything will line up. There'll be no manual lining up by hand needed. Another thing you might want to ask for or get is a lower res export of the movie. If you don't have a low res export, you still can absolutely score a movie. But I highly recommend opening up a software like Handbrake and creating a lower res version, which we call a proxy video, to work with, because it'll just save your system resources and save you headaches down the line. Not anything that's going to be like make or break the project. It's just you're freeing up your computer to use resources on something more demanding rather than just running a video. You don't need a 4K or Ultra HD version of a video to write music to in your DAW. You can export it later with high quality export with the music, but as far as actually composing goes, don't stress about it. So that's really it for today. If you guys have questions about this, please let me know in the comments or hop into the Discord community. I'm very active over there and try to be as active as possible. I have the Composer Resource Library available below, as well as a whole blog with a bunch of articles on scoring technology, the business of scoring, and so much more. So just let me know if this is helpful, because I want to make as many resources as I can for you guys. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on film scoring, sonic branding, and game music in the next month or two, so give me a subscribe, and I will see you next time.